Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to our channel. Before we get into everything, if you're a Jimin fan, an ARMY, or even just someone who loves watching the internet absolutely lose its mind over something completely unexpected, hit that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below telling me, are you on Jimin's side or not? Because by the end of this video, you're going to have a very strong opinion. I promise you that. And stay until the very end, because the last thing I'm going to tell you about what happened in Tampa. Nobody is talking about it, and it might actually be the most important part of this whole story. Okay. Let's talk about Tampa, Florida. April 2026. Raymond James Stadium. 60,000 people packed into one of the biggest sporting venues in the state of Florida, all of them screaming, crying, waving their army bombs, and losing their absolute minds, because BTS had finally returned to American soil. This was not just another concert. This was a historic moment 4 years in the making. The last time BTS stood on a US stage was April 2022, at their Permission to Dance on Stage show in Las Vegas. And since then, military service. A hiatus. Silence. 4 years of ARMY waiting, hoping, saving up money, flying in from other countries, and yes, the Tampa Bay Times reported that approximately 180,000 fans descended on the city of Tampa across the 3 concert dates. That's not fans in the stadium. That's fans in the city. Streets were closed. A merchandise tent was set up on Tampa Bay Boulevard starting as early as April 22nd. Customized photo backdrops of all 7 members were installed at Tampa International Airport. The entire city of Tampa essentially became a BTS pop-up experience. This was a cultural event. A generational moment. The BTS Arirang World Tour had kicked off on April 9th in Goyang, South Korea, the largest world tour in BTS history, spanning over 85 dates, 34 cities, and 23 countries across the globe, all in support of their 10th studio album, Arirang, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. So when BTS finally walked onto that stage in Tampa on April 25, 2026, the emotional weight in that stadium was unlike anything you can describe in words. But here's the thing. Amid all that magic, amid all those tears and screaming fans and iconic performances, one moment cut through everything. One moment that had absolutely nothing to do with choreography. Nothing to do with vocal runs. Nothing to do with the light show or the 360-degree stage setup. And that moment? It belongs entirely to Jimin. And I need you to keep watching, because what actually happened, and why it happened, is a lot more layered than the 30-second clip that went viral. There are actually 3 separate Jimin moments from Tampa that broke the internet in completely different ways. And most people only know about one of them. Let's start with the one that had ARMY in an absolute frenzy first. Day 1. April 25th, BTS is performing Permission to Dance, a song that, by the way, is deeply symbolic for this tour, because it was the track that literally defined their first return to live performances back in 2021. The crowd knew every word. The energy in Raymond James Stadium was through the roof. But then something happened backstage, or rather, in the sound booth, that Jimin clearly did not expect. The backing track that started playing was the standard version of Permission to Dance. Not the extended outro version. The version without the additional choreography section that fans and members alike had been looking forward to. And Jimin, in real time, in front of 60,000 people, felt it immediately. Fans who were watching closely caught it all in his face. The micro-expressions. The flicker of surprise. The split-second realization. The look of, wait, that's not right. And then, before he could stop himself, with the most naturally human, unfiltered reaction possible, Jimin said the F word. Right there on stage. Caught on camera. Heard by those close enough to the front. The clip spread across social media within minutes. And rather than being scandalized, ARMY collectively melted. Comments flooded in calling it the cutest thing he has ever done. Fans pointed out that they had never, in over a decade of watching Jimin perform, seen or heard him curse on stage. It was so out of character, so spontaneous, so human, that it somehow made the entire moment more endearing than any perfectly rehearsed performance could have been. People reposted it with captions like, "This is why I love him," and "Jimin just said what we were all feeling." Some fans who had been hoping to see that extended choreography section shared his frustration completely, writing that his reaction was exactly how we felt when the outro got cut off. It was raw. It was real. It was Jimin being Jimin, not the polished idol, not the Billboard charting artist, not the global superstar, just a guy who worked incredibly hard on something and felt genuinely disappointed when it didn't go the way he planned. And 60,000 people loved him for it. But wait, because that's not even the moment that got the most attention. Or the most controversy. Keep watching, because what happened on day 2 is what really set the internet on fire, and this time, not everyone was smiling. Day 2. April 26th. By this point, Jimin was already trending. The F-word clip was everywhere. ARMY was riding high on the energy of the first night, and expectations for day 2 were sky high. And Jimin delivered. He came out with his iconic long flowing blonde hair, the same look that had already made him a viral sensation when he debuted at the Tokyo Dome earlier in the tour, earning him the fan-given nickname, Rapunzelman. He opened with Hooligan and Run BTS, wearing a new stage outfit, and his presence was, by all accounts, otherworldly. Fan-cam videos of his freestyle dance during the choreography-free FYA performance surpassed millions of views almost instantly. On that second day, he also performed his iconic body roll choreography during an impromptu Pied Piper stage that had the audience completely captivated. Every time Jimin appeared on the stadium's big screens, the crowd erupted. But then, a clip started circulating. A short video. Jimin on stage, mid-performance, taking a sip of water from a bottle, and then spitting it out. That was it. That was the whole clip. And it broke the internet. Not in a good way, at least, not universally. On one side, critics came out hard. Some netizens called it disrespectful. Some said it was unhygienic. One user wrote that Jimin was spitting on fans who spent thousands to see him. Another claimed it showed a lack of respect for American audiences. The backlash was swift and loud, and within hours, Jimin's name was trending for an entirely different reason than his dance moves. But here's where it gets interesting, because the response from fans and from people who actually understand live performance culture was equally fierce. Supporters pointed out that spitting water on stage is an extremely common practice in live performance. Artists across every genre, rock, pop, hip-hop, do it routinely, either to cool down during physically demanding sets or simply as a stage habit. Many K-pop performers do it. It is not unusual. It is not unprecedented. It is not targeted at the audience. Fans also made the very fair point that a 30-second clip stripped of all context can be made to look like almost anything, and that the backlash was being deliberately amplified by people who were already looking for reasons to criticize Jimin during this tour. As of the time this video was made, neither Jimin nor HYBE has issued any public statement addressing the clip. And honestly, they probably don't need to. Because the numbers don't lie. Immediately after the Tampa concerts wrapped, Jimin became the most trending individual male in the US X, formerly Twitter, music category. Not a member of a group. Not a K-pop act. The top trending individual male artist in music on the entire platform. Across 3 nights at Raymond James Stadium, he owned that stage in a way that left fans from Chile, from Ecuador, from across the United States and beyond, people who had traveled for years to see this moment, completely speechless. One young fan attending the show was captured on camera wearing a custom t-shirt that read, "Jimin, my name is Jimin too." And that image, somehow, perfectly summed up the energy of those 3 days in Tampa. People were not just watching a concert. They were watching someone they felt deeply, personally connected to. Someone who had been away for years, who had come back, who was pouring everything he had into every performance, and who, in between all of that, also accidentally swore on stage and sparked a worldwide controversy about a water bottle. And here's the thing I want you to hold on to before I wrap this up, because this is the part nobody is really talking about. All 3 of these moments, the F word, the freestyle dance, the water incident, they are all connected by one single thing. And that thing is realness. Jimin, in Tampa, was not performing from behind a wall of perfection. He was reacting. He was freestyling. He was being a human being on a stage in front of 60,000 people who adored him. And the internet, as it always does, took every frame of that and ran with it, some to celebrate him, some to criticize him. But what you cannot argue with is the impact. What you cannot argue with is the trending numbers. What you cannot argue with is the fact that we are here, still talking about it, days after those concerts ended. And that's not an accident. That is the Jimin effect. The Arirang World Tour is still very much ongoing, with more than 85 dates across 34 cities and 23 countries. This is the biggest BTS tour in history, and the North American leg is continuing through cities like El Paso, Las Vegas, Stanford, and Chicago. If Tampa is any indication, every single stop is going to produce moments that the internet will be talking about for weeks. So if you made it this far, thank you, genuinely, for watching all the way through. Now go ahead and smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, share it with a fellow ARMY who needs to know the full story, and leave a comment below. I want to know, do you think the backlash against Jimin in Tampa was fair? Or was it completely overblown? And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the latest updates on BTS, Jimin, and everything happening on the Arirang World Tour as it unfolds. Because trust me, this tour is only getting started, and the best moments? They haven't even happened yet. Annyeong.